Welcome learners. We are going to discuss something about our very ancient civilization, that is Indus Valley civilization. Before we move to the discussion of this civilization, let us know its period. When we write history, we divide it into three parts. First part we call prehistoric. That means those things happened even when history was not there. That means nothing had been written about this period. That is prehistoric. The cave people or aboriginal people before any civilization started is known as prehistoric period. We have got a lot of works of art even from the prehistoric period. For example, from Franco-Cantabrian area, we have got some painting inside the caves. Scholars believe those were done by the primitive men when they were dwelling in the caves. It is not only in Europe, even in India, same thing happened. We got a lot of such cave paintings of prehistoric period, especially in Bhimbetka, Mirpur, Hoshangabad and other period. The next we come to the period which is now Proto-History. When we write a history, three things are very important. First thing is the archaeological evidence. On the basis of that, we can write history. For example, the monuments or any constructions like temples, mosque, church, any remains of this thing from the proto-historic period, we write something on that. So, the second thing, we need literary source, something that when written in that period, somebody, and from that literature we come to know about the period. And the third thing is also very important, that is coins. From that also we come to know about history. Since Indus Valley civilization has only one source of knowledge about that period, that is archaeological. Unfortunately, there are some writings that is we find in the shape of seals. On the top of these seals, which we will discuss later, there is some writing there, a script is written on that, but unfortunately we cannot decipher that yet. So, we cannot claim that period is something more than prehistoric and less than history. So, we call it proto-history. Now, interesting thing about Indus Valley civilization is a long time it was unknown to us. We never knew about our ancient culture. What we know about our ancient culture from our epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata and another, that is Vedas. You all know about 4 Vedas from which we come to know about our culture, our civilization and our religious thought. Now, interesting thing that none of these sources talked about Indus Valley civilization. It was first discovered by 2 archaeologists. One was John Marshall, an European, and his assistant R.D. Banerjee. So, their endless effort for years brought out the site of Indus Valley civilization in 2 places, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. It was undivided India in those days and it was ruled by the British. So, when it was discovered by the archaeologist, we can say that it's a part of our Indian culture. Now, it is a part of Pakistan. Nonetheless, we can claim Indus Valley civilization definitely as our own culture. Indus Valley civilization has given us so many things. First, after the discovery of Indus Valley, we come to know about beautiful town planning in those two sites, in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Scholars have not any unanimous opinion about the dating of Indus Valley civilization. Approximately, it could be said that it was something between 2500 BCE to 1500 BCE. But there are different opinions. Some believe even much before that this civilization began. Of course, when we see the highly developed kind of art and architecture from these sites, we can believe that it was not built just within few hundred years. So it was a legacy which started long before that. In fact, our epic like Ramayana, Mahabharata, which had been dated by the scholars, somebody said that it is not 500 BCE or even beyond that, but it must be something between 500 BCE to 500 CE. In any case, we can surely say that Indus Valley civilization is just an end of a very ancient civilization. Let us know about the authorship of this civilization. Who are the people who developed this civilization in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro? There are a lot of disputes about this authorship. Some believe the Aryans came from the central India part to India, and other opinion, they say no, actually from South India, Dravid people or Aryan people, other civilization came here to develop such beautiful civilization in Indus Valley. The third opinion is that this civilization actually developed in this area and they resisted the Aryans to enter this place, and ultimately it was destroyed by the Aryans. Now, if we see the excavation of Indus Valley civilization, there are 7 layers of this civilization we found in this area. That means at least 6 times it was completely demolished. So, it is a long period, a gradual development that set in these areas. Now, let us discuss about the town planning of this civilization. The town planning of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro is so splendid that even some Western experts, they commented that the civilization's town planning is much more advanced than any civilization of that time. The period that we have already mentioned is almost at the same time when Egyptian civilization, Assyrian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization and also Greek civilization developed. That means the whole movement started almost at the same time, and Indus Valley also participated in that movement. Town planning have a particular interesting, which is very modern in characteristics. The whole township is divided into few areas with straight parallel roads. These roads run just parallel from end of the city to the other end of the city, and each of these parallel roads is connected with smaller lanes in squares, in rectangular all over the town planning. In these square areas, or we can say now plots, had the kind of houses. The houses were made of sun dried brick. That means at that time baked bread was not used, and these bricks were much more smaller in size than we have in our modern times. In spite of the sun baked bricks, its stability is very strong. For that reason it still exists in our time. Other thing which is very interesting to note, that every house has its sewage system. Along with the roads which is parallel to each other, the sewage system is connected with the side of the roads from the smaller drainage which just emptied in the longer and broader sewage system in the main road. In those days the main transport was a bullock cart, and the town planner made it a point to make the running of those bullock cart very smoothly in spite of the drainage system sometime which runs in through the middle of the road. The town planner had invented few unique structures which was very uncommon on those days in any other civilization, like the great bath. It was a public bath. Anybody could use these baths. An interesting part of this bath that they could invent a kind of brick which were waterproof. For this reason you see a lot of waterproof bricks, though they were sun baked. That means all these bricks are given a kind of coat which could resist the water from leakage. This is almost a squarish area, and it could be approached through staircase in the all four sides, and the bathers could enjoy their swim and just wetting themselves like any other modern days swimming pool that we have. Another interesting thing is the greenery. The people of Indus Valley were mainly agriculturists. They have come out of the hunting age and knew to cultivate their lands. This kind of cultivation and agriculture made them more and more intellectual, art oriented, and ready to use their time for art and culture, because mostly agriculture took 2 seasons, and other time they are mostly on rest, and this area of the years they spend on making art, then music and other thing. So we see that Indus Valley civilization not only gave us the wonderful architectural structures, but also many artifacts and art objects of that period. The artifacts and art objects which we will discuss later, but let us first know that what kind of material they prefer to use. The period, the proto-historic period I mean, they already have learned how to use metal. Beside the metals, they are also using the very common and cheap kind of material, that is clay. We all know that clay doesn't actually last long. In water it gets melted and the whole thing is lost. For this reason they discovered terracotta. Terracotta is actually a kind of material. It is nothing but when the clay had been baked in oven or kiln, that gave it perpetual stability for long time. In fact, we still have some of the terracotta artifacts in form of pottery in the form of sculpture and form of toys till date. And all these things we are going to discuss in our next episode. Welcome learners. Our lesson is Indus Valley Civilization. We have already discussed the background and evolution of this civilization, and I have already mentioned about the different kinds of art and artifacts have been found in these sites of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Interestingly, after the excavation, lot of materials are found. Among them, there are some beautiful artworks and artifacts which still stand as a wonderful example of our ancient civilization. Let us first discuss what kind of materials this Indus Valley artist has used. The cheapest and easily available material we all know is clay. They already knew very well how to use clay because they made a lot of bricks to build their houses, their pavements, and also that famous great bath. So, with that kind of experience of handling clay and to give it a permanent life, we will see how they also use that for the expression of their creativity in terms of small toys, some household objects, some images, and also some potteries. All these are made of clay. Since clay is not long lasting, and it was very important to give it a permanent shape, a long lasting thing, and they use terracotta, that oldest and most stable material for ancient men. Clay is very pliable and easy to handle. You can give shape simple by the pressure of the finger. This is one thing. And another technique that we use in clay, that is potter wheels. There is a pin like thing on which there is a circular disc, and you can rotate the disc in speed with some kind of technique. The wheel stands stable and you put clay on the disc and you can manipulate it with finger. Other than potter wheels technique, another way to create something out of clay is slips. Slips means you take the clay, a lump of clay rather I should say, then put it on your palm and constantly you press it like this and you will get a slip, or if it is a bigger one you put it on the floor and same way you thump it all the way to get a thin layer of clay. Now by manipulating that in different shape you can create something. The third technique of using clay, simply you put the clay on a table, on a board, and use your finger to give different shape. There is two techniques you can use in this case. One is addition and other is elimination. Means to get a shape you first take a lump of clay, then put your clay pieces on that to get a shape, and it is not desirable, then you with a knife take out the undesirable part on the clay. So that way by addition and by elimination you are getting the shape of the clay. Since you take a lump of clay, it becomes very heavy. So in that case you can scoop out some part or core of the sculpture or anything that you are making from inside. So that will make it lighter. This oldest technique was used by Indus Valley artists. Not only they were expert in that, they added their creativity and their impulse for beauty very nicely in their work. The Indus Valley artists have used that material clay not only beautifully but also expertly. They showed their skill in handling all the three techniques of clay modeling, and then to make it permanent they put it in the oven, they baked it, and so it becomes so permanent that still after 5,000, 7,000 years it has the same quality, same appearance without any distortion. We call it terracotta, one of the most permanent material in the art field. Indus Valley artists, like almost all the folk artists, were the part of the society. They helped the society by presenting their works. They are also of three types. One is simply decorative, second is utilitarian, and third is ritualistic. Decorative means they made so many art objects, just a clay piece or a plaque to decorate their household, or just outside the heart they created some beautiful design to give a beautiful look to their heart or their houses. That we call decorative, and we found such things in Indus Valley civilization. Second thing is utilitarian. In this case they have made potteries, lamps, and not least but very important is the toys for the children. Children, they like to play with toys, and in those days there was no plastic or anything like that. So the clay was the main material to make such toys. So all these are the part of the utilitarian product that the artists made of clay. Third thing is ritualistic. Rituals means some performance for their religion. So all different cults have different kind of rituals to perform, to worship their gods or goddesses or whatever they believed in. And same way, the artists of Indus Valley civilization helped their friends, their neighbors, their own relatives by making these images of gods and goddesses. And fourth one is very interesting that we will see very soon. They combine both ritualistic and utilitarian together. The very good example of combining utilitarian and ritualistic art is the mother goddess. Here we see. Mother goddess is not very big in size, but there is a feeling as if it is a very big one when we see the picture here. This is called the monumental quality. This small image can be blown up in a very big size without any distortion because it has that monumental quality. Next thing you notice, the utilitarian factor in this particular image. Your eyes will go straight to the headdress or the headgear. This is very interesting. There are very elaborate headdress we can see here. In the top there is something which very difficult to identify because the style of hairdressing in those days are not really known to us. It might be a piece of cloth or some bird's feather that's bound together, anything it could be. But interesting part is two bowl-like form on the two sides of the headgear. It's a hollow bowl-like thing which can easily hold oil, and most probably the Indus Valley people, they use is as a lamp. So Mother Goddess is not only the image of the goddess, but also in the same time it has an utilitarian quality because it is used as a lamp also. Now we will go to understand the beauty of the sculpture or the image. The image is dressed in a very small skirt. I won't say it is a skirt actually, maybe a piece of cloth is wrapped on the waist, and when it's turned into sculpture it appears like a skirt. But to make it stick to the body, you see a beautiful belt is used. We don't know actually what the material was used to make this belt, but it has a medallion in the center and two strips in the two sides which turn into one slab on the left side. That means the whole thing is again designed in the back side also. So this is a very important and interesting dress that we see in this particular sculpture. Now you move to the jewelry. See the jewelry. There is a necklace hanging from her neck. The two beads on the two sides which is covering her breasts, and then a choker like thing in the neck. So all together we see is a beautiful piece of sculpture, and that a creative quality of the sculptor of this 3000, 5000 years back must be appreciated. After the terracotta, we will move to another material they used abundantly, that is steatite or limestone. Limestone is a kind of stone which could be easily carved. It is not as hard as granite or marble. The quality of this limestone is so that even very intricate design you can carve on this. We see a priest head is made of this particular material, means the limestone. There are a lot of suggestions by scholars about this priest head and its origin. You can see he is wearing a shawl covering the right shoulder. The shawl has a typical design which is called trefoil design. In fact, this trefoil design was very popular in the Mesopotamian and Assyrian culture. For this reason, some scholars suggest that this have the influence of the Mesopotamian and Assyrian art. In fact, there are a lot of contacts between the far western part with India, because we will see in the Mauryan style of art sculpture they are high polish. That must have been the quality which is brought from this area of Middle East or Mesopotamia. The schematized form of the beard. Straight lines are used to give the design of the or the motif of the beard. This is also undoubtedly another influence of the Assyrian style of sculpture. Then notice the eyes, they are sliced and long one. So there is no doubt the suggestions of the scholars must be admitted that it has lot of foreign influence when it was created by Indus Valley's sculptor. Again, this very small in size, but it has the same monumental quality. Beside the technical quality that we have already discussed, the trefoil design, the schematization of the beard and the slice shape eyes, the expression, which is the most important quality of an artist to infuse. Without expression, any work of art, especially portrait, becomes dull. And here the artist had managed to bring a very serene, lucid, calm expression on the face of the priest. In fact, we are not very sure it was a portrait of a priest or somebody else, but only for this kind of expression on the face, we prefer to identify it as a portrait of a priest. Now, another thing that we are going to discuss of the art of Indus Valley civilization. Use of metal as the material of art. There are a lot of metals in Indus Valley civilization findings, bronze, copper, etc. These metals were used for many reasons, make the tools for carving, for weapon, and not last but the least, for art. One of the most beautiful works in the world art treasures is the dancing girl. In fact, in Indian art, we hardly see any kind of human or female figure which is such lean and slender in quality. In fact, Indian artists since the ancient time prefer more robust, plumpy and voluptuous female figures that we have already seen in Khajuraho, in Mauryan art and also in Konark. In contrast, this metal sculpture from Indus Valley civilization is very different. We can see not only the lean figure, but also the style, the posture and the face is unique in its appearance. Let us first start with the face. The face is not that sophisticated as we have seen in the case of the priest head. It appears more like a member of the tribal species. Most probably, she was a dancer in the court, and these tribal people used to entertain the higher status of people in the society. They are brought or hired to dance in front of them. The next thing you notice, the left arm is resting on the waist and the right arm is slightly and just kept on the thigh of a bent leg. The arms and the hand both are well decorated with jewels. The jewelry is bangle, long rows of bangles. This is nothing new in India. If you have noticed, the tribal people of MP and also in South, lot of such female tribals, they use long rows of bangles in their arms that start from the hand and moves up to the upper arm. Thus, this style or the fashion, we can say it, is not new. It started long time back from the Indus Valley civilization. Apparently, the figure appeared to be nude, but we don't know whether it was intentionally done or it was to minimize the complexity of making a casting of this kind of metal artifact. But I don't think that they had any problem with the technique. Otherwise, the projected arms are not very easy to use by any sculptor. So, it was most probably intentionally done. But the greatest quality of this small dancing girl is sense of movement. The time 3000 BCE, the same time when Greek art or Egyptian art was in the zenith. But it is very difficult to find such a sculpture, metal or stone, with that kind of mobility in the attitude. Most of the Greek sculpture of that time is very much archaic in nature, without much movement. And same thing about Egyptian art. But here we see how the sculptor had infused the movement in the figure. So undoubtedly, it was one of the greatest sculptures in the world art treasure with such quality. The most numbers of objects that are found in these sites are seals. The seals are very interesting objects that were found here. They are a square in size, 4 inches by 4 inches, or sometimes 2 inches by 2 inches, a different kind of sizes. These seals are made of steatite, a kind of gypsum. We can say something like of plaster of Paris, which becomes softer when it is diluted with water, and gradually it hardens and remain in the shape for long time. All these seals have images on the surface of the seal. These are in low relief. That means some part of the image is projected from the surface of the tablet or the seal. There are different kind of animals, vegetations and abstract symbols on the seals. But one most interesting thing, something is written on the top or on the side of these seals. In fact, we don't know what is written on that because these are not yet actually deciphered. These seals are of different kind with different images. Let us first see, then we will discuss about the use of it. Now, we see there are 2 seals here, one with a bull design and another with a figure in a yogic posture. Let us first see the bull. Art is not always to capture the actual appearance. Artists have their own imagination, own creativity. They want to express something from their images. They give some extra quality to the image with symbols. The bull is here is not actually a realistic representation of a bull. Something is exaggerated, something is minimized in this particular design of the bull. You notice the horn in the shape of a trident, almost the 2 sides of the trident. That is a weapon that was used by the ancient people. Then see the hump is schematic in nature, the wavy lines going downwards, and it creates a beautiful design. The head is little smaller in contrast the whole body because whole emphasis is given on the body of the bull, which is the main source of power and strength of the bull. The bull is a very important animal in the life of the people of ancient time. So bull is worshipped also in the ancient time, and bull is regarded as the vehicle of God Shiva. So strength and the power of the bull should be recognized in this particular seal, because the seals were most probably used by the traders as their stamp of recognition of a particular product which is used on their merchandise. Scholars believe there are a lot of trade relations between India and Western world like Egypt, Mesopotamia, Assyria and other places. And the trading is so much that there is not only one traders. So every traders have their own mascot or symbol to be used. So here you can see the symbol of the bull is expressing the credibility of a particular trader. Now the next seal that we are going to discuss is very important both as ritual and religion. The figure we see here, a person is sitting in a yogic posture, arms stretched on the knees, the legs are folded and the head with a mask and a very interesting headgear of two horns. And another interesting you must notice, the figure is surrounded by few animals. In the right side there is an elephant, in the left side there is a rhinoceros and another unknown animal. In between the animals there are some scripts or writings which I have already told not yet deciphered. And in the lower part also, on which the figure is sitting in a yogic posture, there are two antelopes in two directions. Some part of the seal is broken. Now let us see what is the importance of this particular seal. Many scholars prefer to identify this seal and the human figure as Pashupati, the another name of Mahadeva or Shiva. Shiva or Mahadeva is regarded as the keeper of the animal world. So he is known as Pashupati. The figure is also wearing a very unusual dress with V-shaped front shirt or anything like that, and again bangles from top of the arm to the bottom. We have seen how the Indus Valley artist used different kind of material, stone, terracotta and metal. Now we will see how they developed the system of pottery that I have already mentioned is done on potter wheels. They not only prepared different kind and shapes of the pots, but also they decorated it beautifully. Here is one example of a jar. Now this jar is painted. It is made of clay and so far it was not baked. So it is sun dried pot. In this shape of the pot is elongated one with a little wide mouth and a tapered bottom, and these are the kind of pots have been found in these sites of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro beside many other sites of Indus Valley civilization. The unique thing of this pot's design is its use of geometrical design for vegetable motifs. Each of the leaf is composed within a semicircle which is placed in rows with a perfect harmony both vertically and horizontally. Then near the neck there is a margin or line from this side to this side which has different shapes, and in the top in the neck side there is a tree motif with long leaves on the tea sides, which reminds you of the coconut trees. Now, the combination of translating the vegetation or vegetable motif into geometrical shape and later to get almost a realistic form of the leaves on the top is excellent. The color is mainly one, a black, and the surface color of the jar or the pot is retained. So many beautiful such pots and jars are found in Indus Valley civilization. They are either made the design with red on black on black of red. Another important find from Indus Valley civilization is their jewelries. So far we have seen almost all the human images either on the seals or on the sculptures are heavily decked with jewelries. Undoubtedly, these people had a lot of love of jewelries which adorn themselves. They are made of different kind of materials, gems, semi-precious and also precious are the main sources of their making of jewelry. This is a jewelry, a necklace we see here. The different kinds of jewelries were found in these sites. For example, here we have one that is made of semi-precious and precious stone. You just notice the design. There are alternative use of flat circular beads and also oval beads one after the other, and this is hanged with 3 beads in oval shape with a protruding long string in the bottom. Undoubtedly they have clear sense of design, and the jewelries that we find there have different kind of different form and unlimited use of designs and repetition of circles, semicircles, squares in their jewelry. So, the last thing that we are going to discuss, the toys. The children of every age are fond of toys. Since those days there are no plastic or anything, but they were clay, the cheapest material of making toys which could please the children of Indus Valley civilization. They created dancing monkeys, then the rattle cart which makes sounds, and also some beautiful human figures in the terracotta toys. So learners, we have comprehensively discussed the different art and artifacts that are found in different sites of Indus Valley civilization. I hope it will increase your interest and curiosity about our ancient past, and you will go through many researches on that. Thanking you. Welcome, dear learner of senior secondary level in painting course. Today we are going to study something about the still life drawing, or which is called also object study. For object study, you can choose and pick up few things from your household. It could be a flower vase, a book, utensil, teapot, anything that you find around. So here we have chosen one flower vase and a book. It is placed on a table, flat table with black drapery on it. The artist now have to first make a layout. This is very important. when you are painting or drawing anything, first thing you have to know what space and how much space you are given to use. She is now working on a quarter sheet, and that is the space she has with her. And to adjust the flower vase and the book within this particular space is very important. One should not feel that this space is useless. You can cut it off. It is unnecessary. For this reason, you have to use the whole space that's given to you. But one thing you should remember, the objects should be in such a way that the weight and the mobility or anything that is in your mind should be intact in it. Now you watch carefully. First, she has made a frame of the same shape of the paper, and then there is two lines with a point in the middle that she can easily understand where to put the drawing of the flower vase. And then with the axis line she has drawn to give the two sides absolutely same, and then in the bottom there is a book here. So the perspective is more important when you drawing a square thing or a book. So when we are going to the main drawing, then I will explain how to use the perspective of a book. Now she will start shifting this layout on the main paper, which she will color. Now to get the exact measurement or the proportion of the objects to be shifted on the larger paper, again she has used these lines, finding the middle point of the objects. After determining that, she is doing light drawing of the book, because on this the whole thing is placed. Whole thing, I mean the flower vase, which is more colorful than the book itself. Notice the lines. The lines in the foreground and background on the side, all the vertical lines are always parallel. This is this, they are all parallel. But the lines going far from the foreground to the background are supposed to be meet somewhere in the end to a vanishing point. Where two lines the distance meet, we call it a vanishing point. So you can imagine a vanishing point of these two lines, suppose here. So these two are supposed to meet here. That means the vertical line of the foreground will be larger than the vertical line in the background. The same system will be used in all this, and then you join the top part of the square book or the rectangular book as it is. It is always better you complete the bottom thing, so you can get the actual shape of the lower thing. So here she has done it, on which she will draw the flower vase and she will erase it, so that the line will continue rightly in the middle point. Now she is working on the flower vase, and the structure can be divided into three parts of this flower vase. One, its bulbous lower part, then the narrow tube like thing on the top of it, which is little narrowed on the top, and then the mouth of the jar or the flower vase, which is much smaller than the bottom. So here we see how craftfully she is using her pencil. First light points are made, the flow of line should be fluid and will move towards the bottom, and do not forget to keep the symmetrical form of the two sides. This is very important. So, the basic drawing is complete, and since she is going to color it, do not make drawing very dark. So, use HB pencil softly. On the contrary, when you are doing in pencil sketch or pencil drawing, you can use 2B or 6B, but when you are doing in color, so it is always better you use either HB or 2H, which is much hard in quality and it just gives such sign on the paper. Now, the drawing is complete. Now, she will be doing the floral design on the flower vase itself. When you are doing the design on the flower vase itself, the rectangles or what the square, the basic of the designs here will change from top to bottom and from the both side, since the projection of the bulbous rays is coming out and the slope of the two sides are going back. For this reason, the design also has been distorted due to this perspective. Now, she will complete roughly the basic design, that is almost in diamond shape. And when she is doing it, she is taking care how the narrow neck of the flower vase is distorting the design of the two sides due to perspective. Then there is a white band which is separating the upper part from the lower part. The design actually has only three colors. One is ultramarine blue, then sap green, and then brown. The design is more visible on the top part of it, while lower part almost invisible due to its bottomness and also due to the light is mostly falling from top. In fact, source of the light is from the top mostly, though there are some light in the two sides also, but main focus is from the top. So, the upper part of the flower vase is more lighted and the designs are clearly visible on this part, and the colors are also brighter on the top rather than in the bottom. The book is rectangular in shape, and on the top of the book the cover has some colors, very faint pink and brownish and with white lettering on that, but the two sides that is visible, one side is little darker than the other side. That gives you the sense of perspective as well as heaviness of the book itself. Since it is rested on a black platform, so the whiteness is accentuated much more in this case. So, there is a perfect harmony. You can see the lower part is dark, then the book is lighter, then the flower vase itself is colorfully dark and the top again is white. So, it is a perfect choice of the object that is done by the artist itself. So, when you choose your objects, make it a point that each object should be somewhat related to the other and the color scheme could be adjusted like that. So, the basic drawing of the motif or the design is done. Now the detail of the design, the leaf-like form of green and a diamond shape of brown on the surface of ultramarine blue. When you choose an object or still life from your household, always remember the shapes of the objects are pleasing and also they are compatible with other objects that you have chosen. Now the forms here basically one circle, one tube and one rectangle, and the chosen objects are actually very much related to each other, as all the colors that I have just explained are related and giving the object a beauty. In the same way, we will find the colors are also should very much compatible to each other. There are different ways or different medium you can use for still life. It is not necessary that always you have to use colors. You can use simple pencil. For that you need only 4 pencils, HB, 2B, 4B and 6B. Beside the pencil, you can also use crayon and charcoal. I won't prefer you to use charcoal in the beginning because it is a little messy, but crayon you can always use, but the best result in the beginning will get with the pencils. So try first with the pencils and then you move to colors. Now in case of colors, there are 2 options are very much popular. One is the poster color, which is opaque, and you can use directly with brush on that in a very thick and opaque manner. This poster color has one advantage. If there is any mistake by chance, you can always amend it. You can cover the part with thick color and repaint again without any problem. But unless you are very good in handling watercolor, which is transparent in nature, it is very difficult to complete a work, because if there any mistake done, you cannot amend it ever. So you have to start anew the whole thing. So my advice for the learners that you first start with pencil work, then with opaque poster color, and if you want to use canvas, you can use also acrylic color, and the cheaper version of the acrylic you can get in the Fevicryl, which is generally the same quality of acrylic, only in cheaper rate. Now you watch the material she has brought with her to paint. She is going to do it in poster color in tempera technique, that means opaque technique. She has few bottles of colors, then 7-8 pencils and lot of brushes of different number. The brushes, when you choose, you have to be careful, because brush is a very important component of a painting. When you put it in water and try to bend it, it should not. It will come back to its shape like a spring. So you can understand it is a good brush. Then the tip of the brush is also important. So before you buy a brush, take care to test it, dipping it in the water and just pull the hair of the brush and see whether it is coming back to its own position. For brush, I will add advice in the beginning not to go for many, Gradually, when you will be more matured, you can buy a lot of brushes, but in the beginning, just 4 brushes will be enough for you. Number 10, the broadest one, then number 8, number 4 and number 2. If you want to do very fine small still life or object drawing, you can also use number 1 or 02 brushes. But in the beginning I do not think it is necessary, because you do it in quarter sheet brush that you can move your hand more easily in this size. It is neither very big nor very small for the beginner. Now she is going to start coloring. Notice this is an ice tray. Now she is using it as palette. It has some advantage. You can see the small spaces all over. There you can put your colors. Since it's a small area, the colors don't dry fast. So it remain very wet for a long time. Now the brushes. There are a lot of brushes. She has to choose the brush according to her need. Since the object is small, the space is small, she has taken brush number 4. And these are the colors. This is white, this is lemon yellow, this is vermilion, this is brown, this is green, this is ultramarine. Now, the ultramarine is the basic color of the flower vase. But since there is shadows and in the same time light, there are darkness in some part of the ultramarine and some part is lighter than the dark one. You can see dark in the lower part, and in the middle part, as I have told you already, light is falling from the top. So it is little lighter. For the lighter part, she will add little white to give the brightness to the ultramarine color. When you are drawing a motif, you have to be very careful. It should not go beyond the limited area that you are supposed to color. So best thing will be you first make an outline of the motif all around and then fill it with the color itself. You see, first the outline is done and then the empty areas of a particular is filled. It is a gradual process. You should not hurry on this action. You be very composed and give lot of concentration both into the movement of your fingers and the brush, and build the whole structure gradually with color. The top part is now going to be finished. She is leaving the white areas which will be filled later with other colors. One thing more, when you are using tempera technique or opaque technique, always keep the color a little thick. Don't use much water, then you won't get the smoothness of the color. And when you are taking the brush out of the color, try to relieve excess color in the palette itself. If you do not do this, there is every chance to put a drop on the work itself, which will spoil it. In the beginning, you try to choose very simple and easy object with less a complicated thing. For example, now in the beginning when you are painting or you are just drawing a still life, you better use an object with flat color without any design. It will take less time and also less artistic skill for that. And gradually when you are matured, you can handle the completed things more easily, start to choose more complicated objects. In object drawing, one thing is very important, the tactile quality of the object. is a very important quality. Tactile quality is that you can feel the texture or the sensation of the object's surface with your eyes. For example, you have chosen a woolen garment and same time by the side of this there is a silken cloth. So, the surface of these two objects are very different and you can bring the tactile quality as if you are touching the wool and feeling the softness of the woolen object, that you can feel with your eyes. In the same way, the shiny part of the silk also you can feel the touch of it with your eyes. This is called the tactile quality. So, in object drawing, this is very important to capture that tactile quality in its work. You can notice the flowers is made of ceramic, and ceramic has its own shininess which gives some kind of highlights on that. And when you put the highlight on that, it will give you the same tactile quality. On the contrary, the book is little drab and there is not much shine on that. So, this contrast will be brought by the highlight in the next stage after completing the design on the flower vase itself. You look at her concentration, and this is very important part of an artist. In our Shilpa Shastra, like Vishnu Dharma Puran's Chitra Sutra, it is clearly mentioned that the work of painting is like dhyana or a meditation. In those days, the art students were advised to sit with folded legs in Padmasana and put their drawing board in front of them and all the colors and brushes in their left sides. Then use the incense or agarbatti like you when used for your puja, your god. So, like that, this is very important to create an spiritual atmosphere in your studio. This spiritual atmosphere give you the sense of concentration as you do in your meditation or worshipping or praying to God. The same thing you will be using when you are painting. Lack of all these things can spoil your work. Your focus will be shifted to somewhere else and you will miss few things when you are creating your art. No, don't forget, it's creation. In our Veda, it is said that enjoying art or creating art is like Brahmananda Sahadaraha, means it is like getting the spiritual quality or the bliss to know Brahm. So, in a work of art, you actually get same kind of bliss, same kind of happiness when you create something. And all this needs that type of meditation and concentration. Now, look at the coloring. The lower part of the bulbous portion of the flower vase bit darker than the top part. So, she will add little white with ultramarine to give the rotundity or volume of the object. Now, gradually you can use the white, mixing it before you are applying it, or even after you applying a coat of ultramarine and use little white to make it lighter. The bottom part almost done with dark ultramarine. Now she will add little white for the top to give this volume. If you use one brush for painting, so always wash your brush before you put it in other color. Otherwise, the color in the bottle will be spoiled. Now, gradually she is covering the lighter part very smoothly, leaving the white part, and which will be later filled with green and brown. And also notice the movement of her finger holding the brush into 30 or 40 degrees angle. That helps to get the tip of the hair of the brush directly on the space. So, the blue part is done. When you are working with colors, in the beginning try to use only 7 colors: white, black, chrome yellow, lemon yellow, crimson red, ultramarine blue, and Prussian blue. In fact, you can prepare almost all kind of colors with these 6 and 7 colors. Now, she has to use that particular green, which sometimes is not available in the market ready-made. So, it is better you prepare yourself that particular green. Here she has used mixing lemon yellow and ultramarine with little bit of white to this particular thing. And to make it little darker, she has used a bit of blue in it. And since the space is very small, she is now using number 2 brush instead of number 4. The filling the space very carefully with absolute precision. The green will be lighter in the upper part of the bulbous form of the flower vase, but it will be darker in the 2 sides of the flower vase. Before you use the side, you add more green to make it darker. Now, green is nicely placed on the vase. She is adding green to make it little darker for the bottom part. Never dilute water to make a color lighter. That could be done in the case of watercolor treatment. But when you are using tempera, that's the poster color, to make it lighter, you can use either white or lighter tone of the shade. You can see the neck is also dark green. Now, she is gradually coming down with the green. The other areas of green, the 2 sides, are now filled with little darker color of green. Only few green areas are now left, which will be filled right now. Now she is filling the last two areas of green, and after that she will move to the brown. Now all the green areas are covered, only the brown is left. Now to the last leg of the treatment of the flower vase. With the same number 1 brush, she is covering the white area with brown color. The same process she is using, first outline of the diamond shape and then just filling it. When you are doing the smallest area, you always use very fine brush, number 1 or 02. So learner, one thing you make sure that choose your light colors and always try to get the exact color that is in front of you. Remember, colors change with the light. Now when you are using normal bulb, color change to little reddish. Then you use TL or tube light, it will turn little bit of whitish. And in these days when you are using a LED or LCD bulb, then again it will be little bluish. Though the same object in different situations will show different shades, but it is always to be done indoor, most of the object study, and there are no other way by using the artificial light. Here you see the thing is complete, only the book part remains, which has a flat color. So she will use a thicker brush, probably number 10, to fill the color of the cover of the book, that is little pinkish and brownish on the upper part and grayish in the lower part. Now you will find some lettering on the cover of the book. For an artist, it is not necessary to go by each letter or each word. Just you give an impression of the lettering of the top, like the white lettering is there. You just put few lines, vertical and horizontal lines, to give an essence of the writing. And in the lower part, the writings are just black. So just copy lines, that vertical lines can be given there. So this is enough. Don't go for each word like a real letters that is printed on the face of the book. You first put this color all over the cover. Then you add little dark color brown with it and put in top part. Again you give the outline and just lay a flat color on the surface. You mix here little green to make it darker. Now she has used a little green to get a darker tone of the surface of the book, and just to give an impression of that characteristics of the book. And after that she will take care of the sides of the book. It's clearly one side a little darker than the other side. You just cover it with this color and just leave it like that. Yes. Now you take white and blue again and put the color on the one side of the book. You can add a little bit of black if you want, just 1 point. You take a thicker brush. Now add more white. You put the same color here also. Now you write white slant, just an impression, don't go for each lettering. Now she is going to write the title of the book, but she is just giving the impression of the writing, not actually. It's perfect, and you can take the black now. Now last thing she is going to do, the top of the table on which they are standing, the black color. So simply black you use here. The finishing part of the object drawing, the tabletop. Again the same process you follow. You give outline very carefully because now you are handling black color. So it should not enter the painted part of the objects. And after drawing the outlines with black color, you can use very thick brush to fill the whole black area. You notice how meticulously and with full concentration she is drawing the black line. Any mistake or any disturbance can spoil the work. Whenever you are working with colors, the work demands total attention. And any lack of this concentration can spoil the whole thing, and especially when you are using black color. Now outline of the upper part is done. Now fill up the area with number 10 brush. Don't use much water in the color. Now the object drawing is complete.